Hey, it's Troy from Strategy Road and we're here on the advisory deck and we've come out today to the Barossa Valley and we're in Workspace Barossa, a brand new cohab space in the Barossa Valley, and we're having a conversation today with Shelly Cox, who is the Director of Workspace Barossa. We think it's going to be a fascinating conversation for business leaders and startup founders particularly on what it takes to bring a new concept cell to a regional community and what's involved. Hope you enjoy and derive some value from it. Welcome back to the advisory deck. We're out in the Barossa Valley today. We brought the deck out on location, and once more you're joined by Troy Forrest from Strategy Road and my partner in crime, James McGill. How are you, James?
I'm good, Troy.
Good to hear. We're here in a really cool part of the world today in a super cool, funky building, and we're having a conversation with Shelly Cox. Hello, Shelly. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Now, I'm going to get this right because you've got a number of titles, so bear with me for cheating. Shelley is the co-founder of Makers and Merchants in the Barossa here. She's the director of Compass Collective, and she's also the operations director here at Workspace Barossa, which is a super funky cohab space, which I'll get Shelley to talk to us a little bit about. First, Shelley, where do you get all your energy from?
I don't know, actually, to be honest. Wine, yeah, that's definitely...
You are a former winemaker, right?
Yeah, that's it. And I think, I think once you find things that you're passionate about, and if you just go with the flow, you find the energy, and it's quite natural. It just happens. So people think I am working hard, but it's also a very natural just way of being. So I just go with it. Yeah. Coffee helps as well. So.
It does. One of the reasons we want to have a conversation with Shelley today, other than the fact she has this full plate of really interesting combined businesses and services, is we are in a cohab space in a regional community in South Australia. And it's an interesting time in the world where everything's being shaken up, how we sort of work is sort of changing. Cohab spaces in regional communities, why? Why have you done it? What's the impetus?
So I think, so as after I left winemaking 2 years ago, started wanting to consult, work for other people, help them in whichever direction they were going. That's why Compass Collective, sort of the name, wanted to work together and then find, a way to help people. But I also found it was quite lonely, and I kept, Monday morning I'd be like, anyone want a coffee, before I started work, because I missed that connection. So that only took about 6 months, and so I was looking for other ways to connect with people. And then I thought also, other people must be feeling the same way. And we're lucky here in the Barossa, and also in a regional setting where you've got a lot of people who work for themselves or work remotely. So I thought that there was a need for that, and kept walking past this space, which used to be the Barossa Music Centre on the main street of Tanunda. I thought, great location, there's a cafe out the back. I could see, I like a little bit of interior design and architecture sort of stuff, so I was like, oh, maybe you could do this. And so just sort of started to see what that solution could look like, and thought that if it's going to help me and it could help other people, then why not do that? So that's sort of how that started.
And snowballed from that.
Yeah, that's it. We're just sort of, I think, listening to, what the needs of the community are as well. The RDA had done a project, a research project about a collaborative workspace, and there was a 52-page document that basically said, look, it's going to be more beneficial if it's independently owned as opposed to a council run. So I found that paper was really interesting, but luckily I was further down my path on my business plan, so just sort of reconfirmed that this is going to be the right thing, because I think if you're independently owned, you can be more agile, you can change, your focus, you can adapt to things a lot more quicker, while also being respectful of the region that you're in, because the people that you see down at the supermarket, at the footy, we've all got to work together. So there's, and also then working with councils and the RDA and those sorts of associations, which play a prominent role in our regions.
You've been here 6 months?
12 months.
12 months
now.
So
mid-July last year.
So you would have started with some money going in, doing the redevelopment, and then you built it, and you're hoping they would come.
Yeah, that's what I said to the real estate agent. I said, build it and they'll
Field
come.
of dreams.
And he's like, yeah, but you can't. I said, so that's okay. So we made sure that there was a working model that, yes, after the investment that we put in terms of, because it hadn't been leased for about 2 years. It was quite run down, needed quite a bit of love and TLC. But also a good practice to sort of have a limited budget and go, what's actually required and what do we need. So if you'd given me the money straight up, it would have been gold taps and there would have been a lot of things that weren't really necessary. So it was actually quite a good exercise to go, okay, so we need to have some offices to lease out. Okay, so let's get the offices ready first, and then that can bring some income in. And
So did you plan it? Did you sit down and do your strategic
did I plan to have no money? No. Yeah, so I did like a pretty full-on business plan. So it was about 20 pages of just kind of going through the that long-term projection. How would it actually work, and knowing that it's a long-term project, because it was. It was a space where I was then able to do my consulting business. That was sort of where I was thinking. I was like, well, this will put me in touch with people.
Give you a home and build an ecosystem around you of sorts.
Yeah, so I'm finding now that I've got a bit more of a system in place for the consulting and coaching part of it, but that's also not my focus at the moment. I've got another business that I've started as well, based on needs of the community. So so the planning was for Workspace for some long term and some big dreams, and they're still there, but it's about making sure that we've got this model working as leanly as possible, but also like we said about our hashtag, or what we've sort of come up with of do good things, like that's sort of part of my philosophy of how do we make sure that we give people the responsibility to do good things and bring good energy into the space as well.
So you're following the opportunities as they arise. I'm guessing that didn't sit on your business plan 18 months ago.
No.
So what if you went back to your plan from whenever you started, before you set up here, how close would it be to what's actually happening here?
It is pretty close, because so when I left winemaking, I did do a course through Leading Teams called High Performance Leadership Program. Which I found really great. So that actually helped. So I was the only person who was a sole operator. Everyone else was an employee.
Right.
But we had 8 people, and over 6 months we met monthly, and we'd do these sessions. So talking about authentic leadership, learning about yourself. So I learned a lot there about what I was about. So that's where my business plan is. This is what I believe in and I'm about. So it's a very authentic and true alignment to what we're doing. But also that time spent in planning. So it was about 4 months of planning, and that was like 4 a.m. starts, and working out, well, what would happen if someone wanted to put some banners out the front, So all of those things, I'm like, well, because I'm coming from a winemaking point of view, I'm thinking of operations, systems, processes. That's sort of what I naturally see and like to do. So I'm thinking, okay, well, but if I say yes to you, I have to say yes to potentially 50 people. So I can't do that. That wouldn't allow 50 banners out the front of the store. So thinking of what can be replicated and is fair and transparent. So that sort of had started right at the planning stage. And then as we make decisions going on, I can kind of look back to those core values and those core behaviours. Does it fit in with that? Yes or no? Then I feel that we're delivering what we say we'll deliver.
So you were able to say from people pretty early on, I guess your clientele, your customers, this is what you're coming in for, this is the experience, this is the culture, and if you don't like that,
there's other places.
Then you're free to go and do something else.
And that's it. And a lot of the work early on has been, people say I'm interested in whether it's a day pass, a week, like a monthly pass or an office. And I do this, and I say, well, come in, let's have a chat and see if it's going to be right for you. So then that way I don't get to say, no, it's not for you. It's actually, well, here's what we're about. So we've had people that kind of go, do you know what, if I'm going to be working with, it might be with children or other clients, it's probably not what I want. And I said, that's fine, but then they've come in for workshops, they've come in for day passes. So it's not excluding or saying, no, this is not for you, but understand that we're here. There'll be some conversations down here in the flexi space, because if we don't, it's not super quiet, and we want to connect, and even to the point where, so we've got offices upstairs, and people can bring in their own printers, but we've got a communal big printer downstairs. And part of me goes, I don't actually want to put a printer upstairs, because that movement of people coming downstairs means that there's some connection, there's some people saying, hey, how you going today, da-da. So, and there's good exercise going up and down the stairs. So there's all those things behind it that I'm kind of been considering as well. Yeah.
You had a pretty clear vision then of what you were after. There's
It's my ideal workplace.
Yeah,
My ideal
so you
workplace.
designed it around what appeals to you, which is good, right? So you've built your own values.
We've got chocolates in the kitchen. You know, there's those sorts of, you know, put a bit of music on while in the middle of the day. So yeah.
There's conversations we often have with startup companies that if you don't ship your first product early enough, then, you know, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you've waited too long.
Yeah.
If you look back now on day one when you opened the doors, how do you feel about day one now compared to where you are? Have you evolved a lot since you first opened the doors?
There's less painting going on now,
Right.
so we were just progressively you know, like sort of moving people from one space to the other, going, this one's ready now, so you can go in here. And that was also part of the, you know, having a budget in mind and going, well, until we get some more money in, then we can do these things. And then also, what are we going to get the best return on? So what's the value of that, you know, part of the investment?
A lot of financial decision making that influenced how you came into market.
Yeah. And I think if I look, and I guess with startup and being in a regional centre where people know who you are as well, there's a lot of uncertainty of if I put myself out there. A lot of people say, but what is it that you do? And even now, sort of like, and will you make money off of that? Well, I hope it sustains me. But that's not why we do it. But it's still, we're in a community where it's not a natural thing, so that they don't understand. Yes, offices for lease, we understand that, but offices to lease as part of a membership and being part of a community, that's quite a different. So I was kind of kind on myself, going, I know what we're coming in for, it's going to take a while. And yeah,
I think it's a wonderful example of, you know, having a very clear vision and doing what you possibly can to stay true to that vision, while educating and not trying to force, you know, filling up every single desk in this cohab space, because commercially that would be really lovely to have that cash coming in right now. But you know what, we know we've got to figure out if it's going to be right for them and for us over time. So patience. Because
it's that long-term relationship building, and that's what I found out through the leading teams program that I did, was that I really love people. I love working with people, and I love facilitating and helping. But then the 8 people that I worked with, they were also like, but Shelly, you're actually really easy to talk to and get along with. So that was a really nice feedback to say, well, okay, this is probably where I should be in working with people to help them. So the things I've learned in winemaking certainly, you know, have brought me to here, but I was always interested in lots of different things in the winery, like marketing, you know, production, all sorts. So,
it sounds like a really, actually, you know, I didn't think about it this way, but a great training ground, you know, to have a vision for the kind of wine you want to make, to know that there's a systematic approach, and it's very multifaceted.
But if you're also not clear on what you're doing at each of those stages, then the wine's a little shit. Well, it's harder to fix.
And I think it is, again, this idea of we are starting to work differently. You're creating collaboration and collision spaces, but it is a different model of working than we're used to as well. It's starting to take hold in metropolitan communities, regional communities. You know, this is probably then that sort of next step for them. Your thoughts on, I guess, driving success in this sort of new business model, in you know, saying we're not just renting out office blocks to organisation XYZ anymore. We're going to open it up to freelancers, to, you know, self-employed sole traders, and see what can kind of come from that.
Having
sort
that sort of flexible thinking, I think, is really important. Like, I think if you, and that's where I've just kind of gone, I'm no judgment here, is whatever, if you know, do good things. Is it good? Are you trying to do something that's, you know, going to help other people? Is it beneficial? You're going to do it in a respectful and honest way, then you're most welcome. You know, like, I think that's
your key though, isn't it? You've got a very clear vision of what you want to do, and the culture and the way you want to deliver that. So it may not be, you know, you're not deciding this person can come in, this person can't. You've set where you want to go. If people decide, it's almost a self-determination. If they decide they want to fit in that, that's fine. If they don't, then you're not going to change what you want to do to suit everybody.
And that's a hard lesson to learn as well, especially starting out, because you go, oh, if I say no to that person, I'm going to miss out on some income. but also I know that long-term effect is like, I'm going to be stuck with this person for a 12-month, or it might be a longer period, and it might be disruptive to the other people that we've got in the space as well, so
I think that education piece, and then when we're talking here about quite a unique model in the Barossa, and it's effectively your first to market in this region.
So my first physical space, like my first commercial lease, my first,
so a lot
lots of
learnings.
firsts, lots of learning. I'm a bit tired of learning, so but that's what it's.
Who have you worked with to think about commercial lease, and then that's not an easy thing to get through. To think about your financial modelling. You did the Leading Teams program. Have you had to build a team around you to help you figure out how to go through this process?
I've got some pretty, and that's sort of what, and our next business, Makers and Merchants, I've used that expertise of, and that's sort of how I think of the way that we're changing, our way that we work is that we might not necessarily have large organisations, it'll be more leaders in one area that use specialists to pop in and out and support them as they need. So certainly from the accounting point of view, legal, and like social media, all of those things, like I've just drawn on the people that I've connected with, but engaged them. So that's my thing of going, I don't want to pick your brain for free, I actually want to value what you're offering. So making sure that that's part of it, and then those people have felt like they've, been brought along the journey as well.
Tim, you've just heard Shelley talk a bit about starting up a new business in a regional community, a cohab space, a collaborative business, and a concept sell in many respects. In your experience as an accountant and advising businesses like this, what are some of the fundamentals to success here?
I think the main thing is adapting and recognising the market, particularly at the moment where the market's changing, the needs of people are changing, and there's some particular challenges. Recognising the opportunities, scaling and being flexible. Shelley talked about business plans and some spreadsheets and some planning and costing and budget. All of that's very important, but even as an accountant I'm very well aware that you must be flexible in that regard, be able to change it, it has to evolve. If it's as simple as changing the order of a couch because you can't get one in time, or if it's changing the actual business model, adapting to products, short-term products, you've really got to look around what's going on in the region, and whether you're a producer and the product's changing, whether you're providing a service like this, whether you're bringing people together, it's your ability to change and adapt that will really make it work.
There's some absolutely gold examples of, for any startup, it doesn't matter what space you're in here, that the fact that you're up at 4 o'clock in the morning, there's no getting around, it's hard work, right?
But also if that happens, it shows you that you're interested in that. Like that's
it's
what
a really
I found.
good proof source.
You're happy to get up, right? You're
that's
happy to get up, it's okay.
Whereas now I'm a bit slower to get up because I'm burning the candle at the other end. But
A fascinating new world where we're creating new ways of working together, where you're creating complementary businesses that fit together, but all based on this central ethos of want to do good things and want to be around other people that are doing good things as well, and just need to be smart about how we pay the bills with that as we go too, right?
And I think it's about, and where I see a lot of the the solutions for is that sharing of costs and so not devaluing what the cost of doing, of getting great service, of great products are, but it's about I just see those models of being able to go, well, we'll pay $5,000 for this marketing, exercise, but we're going to split it between 12 people. So and that's that facilitating, and that's just what I do.
I like it. It's the word of 2020.
Yeah.
Wrap up comments?
Interesting, if you're a startup, you've really got to have a clear vision about what you do, and then as a sole trader, you also need to be, I think, you have to switch your thinking from that visionary long term. You go, how do I build the systems and the procedures, the processes, the culture? So you've got to be able to wear all these hats. But if you do that, if you have that vision, and then I think you can get your head around how does that actually translate to day to day, and you put the right team around you, you can do amazing things. And I think that galvanising the right team, building the right culture, being clear about where you want to go makes it a lot easier. I think if you're not quite sure how it's going to look, then you've got to figure out, are you the right person to make something happen? Because if you're not sure where you want to go, how are you going to get there? And it seems from the very first moment you started speaking, it was very, very clear that you had a vision. And it doesn't mean it's this colour couch and that colour couch, but you had an idea of what it was going to be.
I had to be flexible on that because some weren't available for 20 weeks, and I went, well, I need it, like in 4 weeks. So I had to, I think that's
juggling, isn't it?
That's that
that's
agility. It's a nice couch. But also, I think, and like my passion is still that I do believe that systems and processes, you get those right, there's actually so much benefit in that planning part of it. But then there's also a point where you go, I've just got to start, because there's so many things you can't plan for, and if you go into it, I'm just going to start. I'm going to review and reflect. I'm going to change I'm willing to change. I'm not going, but this is the way I said I was going to do it. If you've got to have some of those
bit of flexibility
bits about it, because some of that jumping in is where you'll learn actually this is not what's needed, and that we've had to do that in terms of whether it's packages that we've put together, and you've just got to be flexible, but you've also just got to start as well.
This one's a rich mind conversation for any startup leader, and Shelley, we can't tell you how grateful we are to share your journey and story with us, to have us on your much fancier than our deck too. We've got to come up to the Barossa more often, maybe later in the afternoon, perhaps next time.
For a wine, one time 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Thank you for unpacking your conversation with us. If you'd like to come and join us on the deck and have a conversation about your business, share some great business wisdom, get a couple of thoughts from some really bright people as well, we'd love to have you all. Bring us over to your place. Details are down at the bottom here. Thank you so much for joining us on the advisory deck in the Barossa.